Hello and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for a new episode of A New Go of New Home Sales. My name is Anya Chrisanthon and joining me today is Helena Jaramillo with Pam Pam. I'm very excited to have you on the podcast today, Helena. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So nice to be here, Anya.
So let's jump in. And first, I'd love to start by, if you can telling us a little bit about yourself, your story. It's always curious how people get their start and really what led you to co-found Pam Pam and what problem are you trying to solve?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Helena. I'm the co-founder of Pam Pam. Pam Pam is a software company that allows you to make and share maps. And a little bit about myself, I'm primarily a software designer. So I had been designing products for 12 years at different companies like Google and Khan Academy and even fintech companies and companies like Figma before I became an entrepreneur. So I was a designer, and then me and my co-founder just started working on Pam and went from there. But that's a little bit about who I am, and we're based in Philadelphia.
Oh, I didn't realize you're Philly native. I'm in Wayne, Pennsylvania. I'm like right there.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Small world. For some reason, I thought you'd be like across the globe somewhere, or who knows. But when you said your local time, I was like, oh, interesting. Okay, so you're on East Coast, but much closer.
Oh, okay, nice.
We could have done this in person. Who would have known? Helena, for people who may not be familiar with Pam Pam, give us a little bit more of how does it work and what really inspired the idea of Pam Pam and how has the platform evolved since its launch?
Yeah, absolutely. Pam's an AI map maker, so it allows you to make custom maps for the web. So you can make a map for your website or just share it out as a link and so on. And so the reason that kind of how we got started and what inspired it was actually more from like a personal perspective. Me and my co-founder had both moved around a lot, and so we were always like exploring new places or having to get to know places once we've moved there. And so we really wanted a way to have a map that really allowed you to share your perspective of the world. And so that's really how Pam started. And we wanted to use a map because maps feel very actionable, they're very visual, but we wanted to create a surface that felt very flexible, very personalized to whatever your use case. And so we started with this more kind of like personal perspective, and we thought folks would make like city guides and lists and itineraries. And to your question about evolving, what's been really interesting and why we're talking here today is we did see that. And so we do have some consumers using it, but actually what we saw a lot more of was professionals using Pam to make maps for their businesses, including folks in real estate and in show homes and new builds and all that kind of stuff, basically to make all sorts of maps. And we can get into that. So that's been a little bit about our journey.
So essentially, it's an ability to create interactive maps on your own for anything. And so let's talk about some of the standout features that really differentiate Pam Pam from other similar tools.
Yeah, the main way that Pam is different than other tools you might use to make interactive maps is really in the ways that we're making it really easy for anybody to make a custom map, because we did design it basically for consumers. And although we do have professionals using it now, it is really easy to get started. Some of the main things, the main ways that you start to create this interactive map are you can literally like type in a list of addresses and then get a map out of it. You could start with a spreadsheet where all you need is like a title and an address and then get a map out of it. Depending on the use case, you can also type in like an AI prompt, amenities in a neighborhood in Philadelphia, and then you get a map out of that as well. So that's like the core differentiator, the AI and usability features that we have compared to other interactive map makers. And then besides that, I would say our other big differentiator is just how they look. They look very beautiful, very well designed. And for people and businesses who really care about how their customers are going to be interacting with the maps, that's, I think, why a lot of our customers choose us.
Very cool. So you mentioned to your surprise that you designed it for consumers, but you see more so professionals utilizing it. So can you give us some examples for our audience? We're primarily speaking to home builders or maybe just real estate professionals. How do they leverage Pam Pam to enhance their marketing strategies and in a way that they can engage their potential shoppers or buyers?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. In a few different ways as it relates to real estate broadly. So, one is definitely more on the marketing side. So, what we've seen is just being able to, let's say, add your listings or maybe show homes that you have or maybe homes that you're planning on building to a map. And so something as straightforward as that, where now you've added, let's say, your show homes to a map. And now this is something that you can share out in social media as a link or embed to your website. And you're really just reusing a lot of the assets that you already have, pictures that you may have already, the key specs. But now you're just visualizing it on a map so people have an idea. Okay, this is where I can go visit these homes. This is the neighborhoods that they're in, etc. And so sometimes that's just like an extra bit of information. The other ways are definitely more as like a core search capability on their website. So depending on the amount that people have, thinking more of some of our real estate customers where they're showing a lot of listings on their map. And so then people can then search through filters. And then it's really just like an additional search capability on their map. So those are two main ways. I will say another kind of interesting way is to create amenity maps for the areas that the homes are in. And with Pam, you can use AI to do that by basically, I gave this example earlier, but you can say, in this neighborhood, what are the core amenities like grocery stores, coffee shops, parks? And unless it's a very unknown neighborhood, the AI can figure that out and create that. And then you can just add the home that you're showcasing or maybe, the specific plot on that map. And so that's really great as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. One of the things we see, especially post pandemic, is that so many people are moving cross country. It's not necessarily moving across neighborhoods.
Right.
So if you are trying to attract somebody from California or whatever they may be into Philadelphia and they've never been, it's very important not only to figure out, okay, where am I going to live and what is the home going to look like, but certainly where are the closest amenities that are going to really make it a conducive lifestyle to what I want it to be. Is there a limit on how many points of interest can you add on one map, or how do you see most people utilize it in that way?
Yeah, it's varied and we have different kind of pricing plans for it. But with Pam, on the paid accounts and actually on the free accounts as well, you can make unlimited maps. And so what's interesting about that is that then you can have one map that, let's say, has all of the homes that you want to show on it, but then you can have other maps that are specific to different neighborhoods or to different areas that you're working in, and then send those out. And so the personalization is, I think, where it gets really interesting. And before that would have been something that's really hard to do, but now you just use AI to say, hey, what are the amenities in this neighborhood? And then you can quickly share that out with a potential customer.
Yes. And talk about the ease of embedding it into your website or whatever, because marketing people are not exactly the most tech savvy folks out there. So if somebody wants to try this out, do we need to be coders? Like, how easy is it to implement?
Yeah, definitely. We made Pam Pam, like I said, definitely with kind of the non-technical person in mind. And so the maps, all you need is to like basically copy the link of the map. So every map is just its own link. And then you would just embed that into your website with something called an iframe, which most website builders already support. And we have a lot of people using WordPress or Squarespace for their websites. And it's as simple as just adding kind of an iframe element in there, putting in that Pam link. And then all of our maps are responsive. So they work on the phone, they work on a wider screen. So all of that kind of happens automatically. And when you update the map in our website in the Pam editor, it automatically updates on your website. And once you have that embedded, where sometimes some of our customers do have to work with maybe a developer that they're working with to really get that in there. But once that's done, then you set it and forget it. You don't have to think about that again.
Yes, easy does it, right? Easy,
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Pam's integration, such as importing property listings from spreadsheets, because that's definitely a big advantage for home builders or even real estate professionals who may have multiple listings out there and it's time consuming.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the biggest thing that we've seen. So yeah, so the way that it works now is that you can import any spreadsheet into Pam and automatically get a map from it. And so it can be a CSV, it can be a Google Sheet, it can be an Airtable. And you can basically do everything in the spreadsheet, like the images, the addresses. And that's nice as well because most of our customers feel fairly comfortable working in a spreadsheet. And then all they really need to learn in Pam Pam is just like doing that, again, that initial import. So that's really nice. And then you just have to keep that spreadsheet updated. And it's usually like a spreadsheet that you might have already anyways, because that's where you're tracking stuff. Yeah, and so once you've set that up, you're just, at anytime you want to update it, you're just going to click import again. And so that's the way that it works. But we have some exciting updates in that area. We're going to add automatic sync. So it's just going to automatically sync to, let's say, a Google Sheet. So then you'll just be able to make updates in the Google Sheet and you don't even have to come to Pam Pam to be updating it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I can imagine that this makes life so much easier for both home builders as well as real estate professionals. Have you gotten any feedback from realtors specifically or home builders that utilize Pam and in the ways that they've been utilizing it?
Yeah, we're still new. So the initial feedback right now is like, hey, it was so easy to set it up. It's already on my website. It's up and running. Like customers love being able to browse it and just search for it on this map. And so that's the feedback that we've been hearing so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I wonder if there have been any surprising ways that people have utilized maps that you've seen, any businesses. I can imagine that any business that has physical location, this would be a great way to utilize it. But I wonder if there's any examples of, I guess, anything that's really surprised you that you've seen.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, because the tool is so flexible, I think there's so many times that we have been surprised to see different use cases. I think there's been some kind of like interesting personal use cases. For example, somebody was planning a road trip and wanted to map out specifically like all the dog parks along the route because they had a dog. And so that was like very specific to that. I think the other kind of use cases that we've seen that have been a bit more surprising as it relates to home buyers and real estate, it's just a way of combining different sets of information. And because we're building this tool, we're not in the home buying or the real estate industry, just basically taking in your data of where the homes might be and then just adding different information on top of that. For example, like nearby, not just local amenities, but larger state parks and things like that. I think the flexibility is what makes it really interesting for folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of different use cases. Now that you said that the dog parks along the way, I'm like, huh, okay, that's interesting. Anytime we're going to be taking our Siberian Huskies on the road trip, that's definitely a good tool to make it easier for yourself. And why did you decide to go with AI technology with this? And I'm curious what other plans you have for Pam Pam as you add more and more features. Is there anything you can tease for us?
Yeah, definitely. With our goal with Pam, one of the big goals was like to share your perspective. And we think that applies to businesses and to individuals, but also to make it super accessible. I think a lot of the times maps feel really technical and feel really like over the top and you have to go and find this developer and it's going to cost you so much money, or you have to get this really like off the shelf solution and it doesn't really match your brand or your customer base. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity with AI to just make that even more accessible, to make that really easy as far as the creation goes. And so I think the amenity maps are like a great example of that, where all you need is the neighborhood you're thinking about, and then you say, hey, make me an amenity map for this area. You add in a specific location, and that's it. So I think that's just making it easier for people to create. I think that's one really big thing that we're excited about, that we're continuing to lean into. And then the other thing that we're working on right now that we actually have a wait list for, and we think is going to be really great for home buyers and for real estate, for people who work in real estate, is we have a product called Atlas. And Atlas is a map you can chat with. So it's like an AI map, basically. So if you take one of our regular Pam maps, which, it's just like a list of places, of points on a map, with Atlas, you can share this with your customers, and your customers can then ask personalized questions to this map. And as it relates to home buyers, let's say you upload 100 different homes, for example, in different locations. Then your customer might ask, what are some examples, I don't know, near a lake, or what are the examples in this state, or which ones have 3 bedrooms? And it's all based on the data that you've given. So, it depends on what data that you've given, and then the AI can have answers according to that. So it's really backed by your own data. So it's not going to be making stuff up, but you do then need to provide that data. And so that's what we're working on right now. And what this is going to enable is anybody who works in like real estate at large can then create these AI maps for their customers, embed it on their website, or link it out as its own tool with whatever your data is, whether that is new homes or just listings or whatever it may be.
Yeah, that's really exciting because as we see AI emerging and voice becoming more mainstream, right? It's funny to say that voice is becoming mainstream because that is the natural way that humans communicate with each other. Yet we were forced to communicate like, machines really with keywords for so long that now I love this, that we're really going back to, okay, we're communicating the way that people want to communicate in their native language. AI can understand you, and it provides a really engaging and personal experience for shoppers. And so one of the things, as you were talking about this, I thought about is you can take a map and say you have a community in the area, and you can create several different avatars, right? You think, okay, so we have a townhome that we're trying to sell. This could appeal to first time home buyer, maybe it's a young couple, but it could also appeal to maybe a divorcee, right? Like a single woman moving in. And so what you can do is you can take those avatars and think about what would appeal to this particular person, and have the AI customize the points of interest or whatever else based on that specific avatar. And then you can launch a social media campaign with that, and think about all the engagement you're going to get when people are starting to chat with your map. You can't get better than that. And so, yeah, there's so many different opportunities and different possibilities. I think it's really exciting field. Technology is really enabling us to become so much more personal again, going back to what humans are meant to be. So that's really exciting to see. And Helena, I'm just curious, how did you get into this field yourself? Because obviously you have the design background, technical background. It's great to see more women getting into STEM. What inspired you to pursue that path and to eventually take a chance and start your own business? So any words of advice on that, as technology making things so much more accessible now? It's like you just need to have a great idea. You don't necessarily need to be a tech genius to create that idea. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely something that I believe in. And yeah, the way that I got into it was I was always really interested in making things for the web and for computers. And it always was lightweight stuff, whether it was like designing some graphics or designing a website. And then in my career as a software designer, I've worked on a lot of like tools, like helping other people make stuff. And that's ultimately what I'm really passionate about. And I think, again, with AI, I totally agree. Like we are going to see so many people making amazing things that otherwise was going to be really difficult or really expensive. And so I think it's a great time to lean into being creative and bringing those ideas. And that's something that we think a lot about with, even with Pam Pam and the maps that people make, like even those ideas that you just shared. How do we enable people to create their own tools now with AI and the maps and so on? And so I think, yeah, I got into this because I love creating stuff. I want other people to create things. So I'm building tools for other people to hopefully lean into that. And I think with AI, it's definitely going to become easier.
For sure. And if people want to find out more about Pam and the ways that they can utilize it for their own business, whether it's real estate, home building, or I mean, anything really. Again, it doesn't have to be business related. Your next road trip. So where can people go to find out more?
Yeah, LinkedIn is a great place to connect with us. So we're Pam City on LinkedIn. And then always happy to connect with folks as well on LinkedIn with my personal account. And I post different kind of Pam ideas and related content there.
Perfect. And I'll be sure to link that information in the show notes. So you guys definitely check it out and see how you can be creative with your next marketing campaign. Think outside the box, literally with a map. And I love the idea of Atlas and ability to talk to a map, and it provides you with the personal guidance on what's important for you in the area and just a different way to engage with your customer base. So you guys be sure to check them out. And Helena, thank you so very much for being on today's podcast. I really appreciate you spending the time with us and telling us about your product. I'm sure it's going to be a big hit with everybody.
Thank you so much, Anya. Thank you for this opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you. And we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.